I encourage people to think about a career, because a career is bigger than a job. It's bigger than the institution you work for, it's bigger than the company, it's bigger than the organization that you work for. But to understand a career, as big as it is, to get to it, you might have to go through a job or some jobs, but they're leading you to a career. The big issue is whether you understand or you have some idea of what's the career. What's your dream career, not necessarily dream job. Because a job, in my view, is a route to somewhere. And look, I'm not looking down on a job. I think jobs are important. But I also think it's important for people to be clear about what they're looking for. There's nothing wrong if someone says, well, don't give me the career thing, I want a job. That's all I want. I want it that way, and I want that, you know. Now, let me talk about the difference. Now, the difference between a job and a career, there are many differences, but one of the key differences is that when you have a job, in a job, you work for someone. In a career, you work for yourself. That, for me, that's a key difference. A job is something that you do for yourself. A career is something you do for yourself, and a job you do solely for someone else. And when you do something for someone else, or for some company, or for somebody, there's always constraints. So you're worried about the fact that this person you're doing something for, they should never abuse you, they should never take you for granted. So it's very important to watch the number of hours. So it's 40 hours a week, no 1 minute beyond, and there's a job description, you've got to keep to it. You go any way out and protest. Because actually, this is not for me, it's for you. Am I saying if you focus on a career, you don't really care about the task that you're entrusted with? Of course you do. And that's why it is possible to have two people in a company, in an institution, same department, they're probably doing the same job according to the company, but they're engaged in two different activities. One is pursuing a career, the other one is pursuing a job. When you are the line manager, and I've been in those many management positions so long that I've seen all of them, right? That you just see by their behavior. So the ones who are in a job are watching the time they spend. They don't want to spend a minute more. If you give them a task, they check whether it's on their job description. They tell you, this is not on my job description, I'm not doing it. The ones who are doing a career sometimes come to you asking for more responsibility, asking for exposure into something else that's not on their job description. Because actually, they're thinking much. I'm going to take off because I'm feeling a bit feverish. I hope I don't have corona. I'm going to the doctor after this at 9:45. I have an appointment because I really am feeling sick. But the ones who's working on a career they ask for different things. More responsibility. I'm underutilized. I need more exposure into that. I know it's not in my department, but can I have exposure into that? What they're doing, they're serving the company. The company will still benefit from having them there. The company more than benefits because the company then gets to use them in many spaces. But they're thinking of a career. So they're building a career. They're not grabbing other people's jobs, but they're seeing the opportunity in terms of where they are at. And they want to use that opportunity maximum. These two people will still get the same salary at the end of the month. They will still be in the same desk, open plan office maybe, same, but they're engaged in different activities. At some stage, the different activities that they engage in, the fruits of those activities will shows up much later. It doesn't show at that point. It shows much later. And of course, I always say to people, if your choice is that you are engaged in a job, it's a legitimate choice, it's your right. But hey, make sure that you join a union. Yes. Because you are engaged in a job, they must help you protect your rights. So that if you're protesting with your line manager about working whatever, there's someone to protect you. that's important. If you're engaged in a career, I always say, well, key, even if you join a union fund, but key, more than a union, what you need is a mentor. You need a mentor who will set exorbitant goals and give you hell if you don't achieve them. It's quite opposite to what union will do, because union will say, she can't do that to you because this is your job description. We will stop here. And your mentor might say, you know, you can do more. But of course, sometimes, even if you're working towards a career, you might find yourself in a job, and it might be maybe a job that you think, but how is this getting me to my career? I mean, they said the job might be a route to a career, but how does it do that? It looks so irrelevant and so on. And I sometimes make an example of the relationship between a job and a career, that you can have a nice situation of a job and a career. If you think about them as two circles, you can think of them as two concentric circles. You've done maths. I mean, this place is fine for maths, right? You remember concentric circles. I mean, this is fine. I don't even have to ask. Okay, so two concentric circles, the job inside and the career outside. So sort of the job is sort of the subset of it. But you can also think about the relationship between a job and a career as two intersecting circles. And you can also think about it as sometimes appearing to be circles completely like that. My view is that if you are in a job but you're thinking about a career, it doesn't matter whether you have a situation like that or concentric or circle. If you're thinking about the fact that you're working towards a career, it's not just about the content of the job, it's also how you do the job. Because if you distinguish yourself in a particular space, you gain more advocates. Oftentimes in jobs, you need I'm saying advocates, but I know that there's another name that they use in corporates. People who will be your spokespeople. Senior people who don't tell you, they might not even be your mentors, but they go around telling people about sellers. They are busy buying you favor. You don't even know. You don't need one of them. You need the more of them you have, the better. And that's how people, and it's not about the soft thing that people say, it's who you know, no. People don't even have to know your parents and your whatever. They just need to have an experience of working with you in a particular space, and they end up telling people about it. That's the difference between someone who's in a job, but they're thinking about career. They're building relationships, they're doing excellent work, even though it's not their destination. They know this is not my destination, but I've got it now, I'm going to do it well. Let me give you an example. I've had a story of someone who, when they grew up, they wanted to be a lawyer. Am I taking over time? I don't have a written script, so I might take two. This person wanted to be a lawyer, but like many of us, my generation of African black people, grew up poor. But if you grew up in the township or in the villages, then, well, in my generation, there was a thing about the easiest way to earn a salary. You go for nursing. Because if you trained as a nurse, if you go into hospital to train as a nurse, you earn a salary on day one, month one. Already they're paying. So even if you didn't want to be a nurse, you apply to be a nurse, you earn a salary, and then you can support at home whilst you study for the thing that you want. So this person, and it's a man, decided to go for nursing, but nursing wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to be a lawyer. Went on, do the whatever 3 years, got the epaulets after 3 years as a male nurse. Everybody in the township, there's prejudice, whatever, people like that. But he did that. And then he decided to study with UNISA. At that time it was B-Proc. He did with UNISA B-Proc part-time. This guy tells a story of how in the hospital as a nurse, he would take all the night shifts that people didn't want to have. He took all of them because then at night he says it wasn't too busy, so he could study. So he managed his time. He says, oh, they love me in the hospital because I was the most useful guy. The only time the nights are heavy is weekends. During the week, it was fine. got his big Prof, got his LLB, and then decided, and still was in nursing. He's wearing apron with his big Prof, LLB. After that, he decided to leave nursing, to go and do. He says there was an opportunity to come to UCT to do 1 year in the Faculty of Law, whatever, their law school. I think the program had one student who studied some 1 year. Students can come from everywhere and come and do that. Said he signed up for that. Now, you can imagine, he studied law, he was in nursing, he comes here, he does 1 year. He says, as they're doing this 1 year at UCT, companies come to recruit, right? One of the companies that comes to recruit says they want candidate attorneys who are going to focus on income malpractice. He says, no competition. If you know what candidate attorneys earn, it's so low. He says, I had no competition. They didn't even, they looked at my CV, they're like, what? Next, impulate. You've even been in there. He's been working nights. You can imagine you are in hospitals, weekends, you get serious cases or whatever. They thought, this is the guy. They offered him a job, and he says the salary was damn good because they had never found anyone, any candidate attorney who came with a nursing qualification and experience, and they have an LLB. And there he was. But at some stage, the job that he was doing, which was nursing, looked so far apart from the profession that he wanted, which is being an attorney. Everyone thought they're so separate and far from one another that there's no way they can come together. And here it is. They came together, giving him more money than the other candidate attorneys were busy competing for the other stuff. He didn't have to compete. Now, this is an idea about even when it looks like you just never know. Take it seriously, because if you take your job as a route to somewhere, but you're clear about where is that you want to go, it may just come instead. But as I said, you're also winning advocates, the people who can tell others who are in the place where you want to go about the kind of problem solver you are, the critical thinker you are, the kind of colleague you are the people who are working in the job that doesn't look like your ideal job or the dream job. So you are here today. You're going to spend the whole day exploring different possibilities, how you career and so on and so forth. It may be possible that you're going to start not in an ideal place with the ideal job and the career looks a little bit far. My advice is grab the opportunity. There's something big about humility and grabbing the opportunity that I don't have to start up there. I just have to have clarity as to where I want to be ultimately. So whether I start here, whether I start there, it doesn't matter. People often think I started the academic career somewhere here. Actually, I started the academic career. I was a school teacher. I started my first year of work was by chance because I didn't get postgraduate funding. I went back to the school where I did my matric. It had changed into a college. It was in a village somewhere between Harampa and Maupani, Hebron. It's a village. So the school had changed into a college. I got there, my teachers were there. It was the same teachers I had. And they were like, oh, so what did you major in? I was like, mathematics. What did you get? 74%. They're like, hey, who did the next lecture? I was like, oh, because I didn't get funding to get to. So my first year was there. But from there, I've taught in high school. I've taught at some stage. I did some teaching at primary school. At some stage in '94, after the elections happened on the 27th of April. And at that time, I was a subject advisor somewhere in the west of Johannesburg. A subject advisor for mathematics across all the West Rand. There was so much uncertainty. People don't understand. If you work for government, certainly for government, you work for the Department of Education and Training at that time. Elections just happened. Nobody knew what was going to happen. I decided, I was very young. I thought, if it doesn't work, I'll start afresh. Went into the NGO world. work in the farm schools. I work with teachers and students in the farm schools, spreading the love for mathematics. I'm putting it that way. That wasn't my job description. My job description was to do teacher development and so on. But I went into the farm schools, working with, during the day I would work with the students. When school ends, I work with the teachers. The teachers would be in the class whilst I work with the students, and then I would work with the teacher. That wasn't my destination. But that's just the route. I spent 6 years in farm schools, working. I figured out at that time the way to make children pass mathematics is not to them so make them love it. Find a way to make them love it. Because if they love it, they're going to spend time doing it. They will come to class, they will spend time after. They will chase you. And that was my dream. I went around, even when I taught grade 12 afterwards, I taught students. My class was always full, whether the students were doing well or not. So I figured out to make them love mathematics, they will love doing it, and they will come to your class unlike everyone else where they are. And then they will do it even when you're not there. And at some stage I decided I want to be an academic. And at that time I was already project manager in an NGO. I was paid well. I've been in this honors and master's class, and this professor man, I was like, wow, I would love to do that. And there was no job though. And she said to me, I have a research project. You can join my research project. I didn't have a PhD, I had a master's. From project manager, I went down to being a research assistant. She said to me, it was fair. She said, maybe you don't want to resign. It's an NGO. Don't want to resign. Take leave. They're an NGO. Obviously, they want to use their money. Take leave without pay. Come and see if you like it. She had been my supervisor at honors and masters, so she knew that she's not going to. So here I am. From being project manager in an NGO, I went to be a research assistant. Starting at the bottom. When you're a research assistant, of course, you can be the arrogant type that doesn't want to do other things. I decided, I want to be an academic, so I'm in. I thought, I want to do my work here. When I'm done, they will not want to let me go. I did everything. Calling, making coffee, calling, photocopying, collecting material for the research team. When we went on data collection trips, I was the girl. They knew. Professor knew that they could leave everything to me. It would be all sorted. You can imagine, that was 98. There were not many people who looked like me who did these things. And my friends thought I had gone mad. How can you do this? Some of the people in the research team don't even have PhDs. They have masters like you, and you're busy jumping up and down for them. They are what? They are oppressing you. You are a slave for them. And I said to them, no, okay, guys. I'm looking for a career. I'm in. I worked my butt off. 2002, got a doctorate. Just like many other people, we walked the stage getting a doctorate. But as I walked that stage, all of us looked the same. We were all wearing red gowns. It was June, very cold. I wasn't doing a PhD. I was taking a career. Because in those years of my PhD, I had had experience of working in a large research team. I was sure I can run this research team. I had published in international journals. I had presented in top international big why? Because in the research team, not only was I the runner, when the professor said, we are writing a paper, I would do it. Whilst he's thinking about it, I'm doing it, and I bring a draft. Because I was a research assistant, I bring a draft. So, co-authoring, when we produced the book, I had 3 chapters in the book that I had co-authored. Why? Because I was a research assistant. I had an advantage. All right? So I could run, do the paper, bring it, and then other people would Obviously, my name is there because I'm doing the running, right? Not only that, you're working with this large research team, with this top professor. When he goes to conferences, he introduced me to top people like him. They got to know me. By the time I graduated, I had done already 1 keynote in an international conference in Ghana. I had killed it. Of course, I could have messed it up. What I'm saying, no. What I'm saying is that I was at the bottom as a research assistant as I was doing my PhD. I did resign from the NGO job. I was this, and people thought she's mad. What is she doing? People gave it all sorts of names. But my idea was I was in. I started in at the bottom, even though I had teaching experience, working whatever, and I was project manager at the NGO. There I am now, I'm a research assistant. That didn't bother me. The border was, what's the bigger thing? What am I working towards? I kept saying, I'm gonna be a professor. I was advanced. I was like, I'm gonna be a professor. One day, I don't know when, but I thought I'm gonna learn so that I can. So I could have been a research assistant who doesn't do that, who does the bare minimum. But that's like a research assistant who takes the research assistant seat as a job just to get a salary. I took it as a route to a career, because I understood that the career is much bigger and it's about me, so I can do more, and it doesn't matter who says what. I'm in and I'm on the route. The experience that I had in working in farm schools, being a lecturer, came in so handy. People had never been in that environment. I had worked in that environment on the ground so there I was with it. And so I'm saying to you, as you do this, as you engage today, and as you think about your career, also be open to the idea that when you start the journey, it might start at the bottom, like mine. It might start, some people are like, it starts here. You might have to start like me at the research assistant level. And depending on how you do it, it might move fast. One little story before I finish. It's about grabbing the opportunity. It doesn't matter what level you start. Here's the little story. Once I was doing my PhD, I'm sure some of you are doing your PhDs after that. The NRF had a partnership with the NSF, the National Science Foundation in the US. They started this program of PhD students in South Africa spending time in the US. I was doing my PhD at Vets, and you had to apply. There was a list of institutions that were in the collaboration. And I studied mathematics, and in my PhD I was doing research on mathematics education. I was analyzing the relationship between maths and language, and I've never studied linguistics. And I wanted to analyze mathematical discourse. I was busy reading, I had data at that time, I was struggling with reading, whatever. Anyway, this opportunity comes to us, as you can imagine, we want to go. I see this opportunity to go to Wisconsin medicine at a time when I found this book of Introduction to Discourse Analysis. I read it cover to cover, thinking, wow, it made sense. I was just struggling to see how do I use it to analyze my data. The professor who had written the book was at the University of Wisconsin medicine, which was on the list. I applied to do that, got the opportunity to go there. We all got onto the plane, the group that I worked with. There were several of us, we got there, some people went to Michigan, some people whatever. I went to the Midwest, Wisconsin medicine. But what I had done, because I had read this book, I had written to this professor. I figured that he said, I wrote to him before I left, and I said, I'm coming to the US, to Wisconsin medicine, I'm doing a PhD, I've read what I'd really love to meet. And people had said, oh, he's so bloody arrogant, he's not going to respond. And of course he didn't. But I got to Wisconsin medicine. When I landed the day, I had asked to meet with him the following day, he didn't respond. I checked with people, they said he's got a class, a PhD class. In the US, PhD is course taught, there's taught option. I decided I'm going to take his course. I pitched at his class. I sat right in front. It's the beginning of the semester, around September. And I already had my data, whatever. I had read his book. I sat there. I thought this guy would never forget me. I sat there. Every time he asked a question, I was like, every time he said 1, I said 15. He was like, what? Like everyone was like, what? At the end of the lecture, because I was sitting in front, I was planning to go to him. Before I stood up to go to him, he came to me and he said, hey, I'm seeing you for the first time in the lecture. Who are you? Where do you come from? No, I'm the one. I sent you an email 2 days ago. I'm here. I'm going to be in your lecture for so long. I'm doing this and that. He says, oh, I'm really happy to meet you. Can we meet tomorrow? I said, yeah. you're gonna get those. Even just being here today is an opportunity. Even just being a PhD here is an opportunity.